Newcastle, Australia on a Tuesday night. It's 8 in the morning in Manchester, England, and this is the only place in the world where your team name beginning in either West or Wakefield, you've had a hell of a year, and where we bring you the coverage of some of the greatest comeback wins in recent memory. Yes, this is the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I'm Conor Marcellus, and today it is your NRL Week 6 debrief. The Easter program is here for the NRL and the Betfred Super League, but we've got to start with our priorities on the local comp, so we will begin round 6 of the NRL with the Melbourne Storm up against the Sydney Roosters. Of course, the Roosters, no James Tedesco for the next 2 weeks, ruled out Category 1. So Joey Manu comes back into the side after a one-game suspension, lining up at fullback in what I believe is the only change apart from Terrell May shifting back from the 18th man with Naufahu White.
As for the home side, well, big news is Jerome Hughes is back from suspension, which seems Jonah Peasant moving to the reserves. The only other change is Tarek Sims replaces Grant Anderson, who is 18th man.
Of course, the Roosters had a very, I wouldn't say convincing win, but they came through strong against the Eels, 28 points to 20 at Allianz, whilst Melbourne grounded out a strong defensive win against the Rabbitohs, 18 points to 10. Let's start with the home side first of all. A lot of people have said this is the Melbourne of old from a defensive standpoint.
They certainly have. And they're starting to get back into the rhythm for what we used to see them. I'm just at a mental blank, but yeah, they're starting to get back into the rhythm of what we've seen with how they are. They've got the best spine, well, not the best spine, their best spine that they can have without Pappenhausen being there.
I mean, look, Nick Meaney has done a very solid job at fullback for Melbourne. I think it's a very shrewd buy, but this is what Craig Bellamy's been able to get away with for probably the last 5 years, is ever since the big three were broken up. But you buy into that culture at Melbourne, you buy into a system that produces results. And once again, Melbourne produced a strong defensive display right here. The Rabbitohs never looked like they were in this game.
No, they certainly didn't. Like, once Melbourne got their rhythm going and got in control of the game, the South just could not stay with them. And they just faded away, really, after what they did the week before against Manly.
I think they had their pants pulled down on at least 2 of the 3 tries the Storm scored. I think the first try to Josh King, that should not have been spilled. They should not have given that ball up. And then Cameron Munster, he gets my 3 points for this round. His influence and his try early in the second half basically put Melbourne up into good stead. And 1 try, 141 running meters, 2 tackle breaks, 4 tackle breaks, 1 line break and 2 offloads. And Josh King gets my 2 votes for this round. 1 try, 133 run meters, 2 tackle breaks, 13 hit-ups, and a mammoth 52 tackles as a lock forward.
See, ever since he's left Newcastle to come down to Stormy, he's thrived. And that's what, as you just touched on with Nick Media, with Craig Bellamy, he can just bring the best out of the players.
The fact that Melbourne had almost double the amount of missed tackles, yet the Rabbitohs had nothing to show for it. How good is that? I mean, I had to look at the numbers partway through that game on last Friday night. It was practically 54-27 at one point. Missed tackles south to Melbourne.
Yeah.
The Rabbitohs just couldn't get momentum. And once again, you've got to say, it comes back to Latrell Mitchell.
They've been saying in the last couple of days that they're saying that Latrell Mitchell needs to get himself into the game a lot more. I believe he only did 3 runs for 27 metres at one stage.
I heard 5 runs for 27 metres. But
at one stage, that's what I heard. So, yeah, that's, for someone of his calibre and his dollars and, more his calibre.
For his stature in the game and the fact he's playing fullback,
that's pathetic.
no one's asking him to be like Dylan Edwards. He doesn't have Dylan Edwards' fitness. But at least play like you're an actual fullback rather than I don't know what. But don't go missing. And from Andrew Johns to Cooper Cronk, I've heard the same aim line. Get involved. It's got to be a mindset thing at this point.
Probably, but the South Sydney aren't doing great things, but they aren't doing bad things. They're kind of in that middle order at the moment, and see, that could play on your mind too. He's trying to, well, he thinks he might be trying to inject himself into the game, but he's not. But he just needs to get involved more often, and that is when South Sydney, thrive, is when he is getting involved and they're absolutely dominating. But we have not seen that so far this season.
No, I think they've had problems in the forward pack. A lot of personnel missing from Totola. He's back. We'll touch more on that. Jai Arrow's still missing as well. And
Shaq Mitchell's missing, even though he's off the bench.
And this was probably the Rabbitohs crashing back down to earth after the whole ecstasy of that Golden Point win to pay tribute to the great late John Sattler.
Yeah.
They've just come crashing back down to earth because, I mean, sure, you could say they had a good win against the Sharks, but then they came into a roadblock against both Penrith and the Roosters, sort of on a slide. They got that big emotional win against Manly, and then they just hit rock bottom again. But I'll tell you who's really starting to hit some form right now. It is the Roosters.
Yes.
Is that defensive first half display, I mean, taking advantage of two players from Parramatta's right side, going to the sin bin at different points in the first half, that just killed off any hope the Eels had. But that didn't reflect the effort they were putting in. That's the one thing I suppose you can't fault the Eels for at the moment. I mean, sure, they're losing, but they're not playing like the Tigers. They're actually putting some effort into their defense. And they were holding out for long periods of time when they were down to 12.
You can definitely see that Parramatta are giving it their 100% best. Even when they haven't got the best at the moment. When Penasini went to the bin and then Simonson went to the bin. They still tried their absolute best to hold out the Roosters, but it just wasn't enough.
I mean, you look at some of the tries they scored. I mean, there was no way they could defend against Jackson Paolo's first try.
No.
That was just brilliant to watch.
Yeah.
And then I think the second Paolo try, probably couldn't defend that either.
Yeah. But the big thing for the Roosters was James Tedesco going down with his HIA.
Yeah, that was probably a turning point, but I think the Roosters managed to hang on there, but not because of the efforts of the outside backs. I think it was the engine room that once again did the most damage. I mean,
Jawair Hargraves.
Had Junior Paolo been there, this would have been an even contest. But I think
bloody oath.
Jared, you're right. He absolutely stood up, the big dog, and dominated. 180 run meters, 3 tackle breaks, 16 hit-ups, and 25 tackles. He gets my 3 points for standout player. Lindsay Collins is a support act. He was pretty good too. 138 run meters, 2 tackle breaks, 1 line break assist, and 3 offloads.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Jawair Hargraves automatically goes captain and Tedesco goes down. Am I right in saying that?
I don't know.
I could be wrong, but from what I understood, was that Jawair Hargraves was going to the referee about stuff. So I'm guessing
he might have the captaincy next to his name.
It would make sense, but he really, once Tedesco went down, he stood up big time.
Well, they both stood up, and I think they really put the Eels on the back foot, even when they tried to wrestle their way back in once again. And the Roosters is middle third between JWH, the Cheese, and Collins. They flexed their muscle, and they got the Roosters rolling nicely either side of the bye.
So Suoliti did well at fullback, even though he got chucked in there. I personally think he did well. He didn't blow the Roosters, blow everyone off the park. But he did a reasonable performance, I think, considering how minimal fullback he has played.
This game's tricky. Getting back to the main result, we've talked about how well the Storm and the Roosters went in their respective clashes. Now we get to the real meat and bones. How they're going to go against one another.
Look, both have not got the first string fullback. We know that. But having Jerome Hughes back for Melbourne is a big plus.
I think Manu's a big boost for the Roosters as well when you think about it.
Yes. But I think that, you have to say that, but yeah, Manu back as well is a big indus for the Roosters. So they both got big inclusions. And they both haven't got their first choice spine at the moment. I think it'll come down to who controls the game better out of the halves, which I think, out of both halves, which I think will be Munster and Hughes will control the game better than Keary and Walker. And also it'll come down to the pack, like how well each can go.
If it comes down to the pack, the rate you're looking at, the Roosters
Have
is
the better
middle.
one.
It would absolutely be leveling the Storm at the moment.
Yeah.
I think you look at the Roosters' recent record down in Melbourne. Now, fair play, it's probably only the last 2 or 3 times the Roosters have actually travelled down to Amy Park, but they've actually walked away with the dub when playing at Amy Park in recent times.
And Melbourne's record at Amy Park this season hasn't been the best, believe it or not.
No,
Losing to the Dogs.
yeah, that is something no one saw coming. And then, of course, they got that win against the Tigers, but
It's the Tigers.
It's the Tigers. They
Yeah.
haven't really played at anyone. Look, I think the Roosters know they're not going to have that much luck trying to run down on the side defensively, so they really would need JWH to once again stand up. But I think you're right. I think Jerome Hughes is a big in for Melbourne, and I would actually be inclined to lean towards the Storm 1-6. I think he'll stabilize general play kicking, and then you'll see Munster absolutely have a blind.
Yeah.
It'll be a tight contest, but Hughes is the deal breaker.
Yeah, you pretty much took words out of my mouth there. Hughes being back there, Melbourne will control the side and game a lot better than what the Roosters will. Nothing against Luke Keary or Sam Walker, but I think Melbourne will have the better controlling of the game and they'll win 1-6. I'm going to say it,
It's a real 50-50 call, but I think
but I'm going to say it, we're going to probably head into Golden Point again.
I wouldn't be surprised if we did. And honestly, between these two sides, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Exactly. Good way to kick off round number 6.
But it gets better from there because we're now into Good Friday territory between the Canterbury Bulldogs and the South Sydney Rabbitohs.
As for Southside that went down, Alex Johnston is out with a head knock, so his place is taken by Tane Milne, with Tavita Totola returning from a knee injury, so Saluka Fafita goes to the bench with Michael Cheekham, 18th man.
Well, as for the Dogs, they have had a genuine scare right here. Of course, Viliami Kikau failed his HIA at training. Category 1, 11 days. Raymond Faitala Mariner, Category 1, HIA, 11 days. Max King and Jacob Preston, and both suffering, I believe we have it listed.
Max King
here,
with an eye.
A very bad eye injury that he almost could have gone blind, and Jacob Preston with that
Hand.
splitting the webbing in his hand. Then Frank Pele breaks his arm. Jaden Ockenball gets suspended for a hip drop tackle. So after all that carnage, this is what we've got so far for the changes. Corey Waddell now comes into the starting pack like on an edge.
Which you're so thrilled about.
Yes. Harrison Edwards now starts at lock 4. With Jaden Tanner and Jackson Torpenay now the freshmen on the bench. And by some miracle, Max King and Jacob Preston are both cleared to play despite one unsplitting the webbing on his finger and the other almost going blind in one eye.
Yeah, so very
of course,
lucky escape for the Bulldogs.
carnage that was the Bulldogs' 15-14 triumph over the North Queensland Cowboys on probably an emotional night at Accor Stadium.
Yes. And I'll give you one a few seconds to guess who got the field goal?
Matt Bird.
Matt Burton. And it wasn't from right in front either, it was from the angle.
It was dead set. An unbelievable
And
performance.
right on halftime, a golden point.
Yeah, just with time running out, the Dogs get the ball back. And what's the first thing Matt Burton does?
Field goal.
3 meters in from touch, 30 meters out.
Slots it home.
Oh,
But what really sent the game to golden point was Josh Addo-Carr's, but then Matt Burton's conversion hitting the post and not making it through.
well, to be fair, we got to give credit to the Cowboys because they had Canterbury's number early.
Oh, yeah.
They jumped out, I wouldn't say to a reasonable lead, but they pulled all the defensive line up. Tom did it in taking advantage of identifying the fullback was up in the line, so there was really no chasers at home. And then, of course,
Bloody Hayes
Ockenbaugh
Perham.
gets sent to the sin bin, so, of course, the Cowboys take advantage out of that one as well.
Yeah.
But there was just plenty of drop ball that like the Rabbits, this game could have gotten away from the Dogs. And especially with all the drama with injuries. Like, how many times have you seen the back rower take out the front rower, only for the back rower to split the webbing on his hand in the same tackle?
And not very often. And I hear correctly that Ockenbaugh went to defend in the middle,
He was playing on an edge as a middle forward.
which you don't hear him do.
Well, I
that very often.
suppose he's gotten to the point, I think, Jaden Ockenbaugh, where his days as a winger are probably done.
It's just no matter where he can play, he will play.
I honestly think he, looking at his frame, he is probably best suited to an edge these days.
He's got his frame, but not quite the beef on him.
I wouldn't say the beef. He's lanky. That's what you want on the back row. You don't want him beefed up like a front row. You want him with a bit of agility. You want him with
Oh,
the
yeah, you
footwork.
do, but but you get what I'm saying though. You look at other front rowers and, and him, well, yeah, you get what I'm saying though, hopefully.
Yeah, you're trying to differentiate between a front rower and a back rower.
Yeah, true. My bad.
Now, I honestly thought, at 14-8, I thought the Dogs were done. I thought the Cowboys would scrape home by the narrowest of margins.
Well, it was an 8-6 scoreline for a long time too, being the wet conditions. But it was more like in the back half of the game, it really turned on.
In the wet of all environments.
Yeah.
Look, Matt Burton, I know a lot of people will probably give Jacob Preston their votes and the 3 points to the best player in that game, and fair enough. It's because of that second try, Canterbury really got back into it.
Yeah.
But it was Matt Burton for me. 92 run meters, 1 try assist, 4 tackle breaks, 2 goal line dropouts, a little bit unhappy with the conversion rate, 1 from 3 goals converted.
Well, that last
The
one
one-point
was
field
close.
goal that turned it all around because we get the ball back, a minute left on the clock, and then, as if he was sent from the heavens, the fastest man on the planet
Josh
scores in the
Addo-Carr.
corner with no time left on the clock, and you're thinking 14 all. Cue Matt Burton to win the game from the sideline.
Nope.
Yeah, no.
Put a post there and it happened to be.
No, it didn't fade back enough, and he clipped the steel work.
You know what that reminded me of?
2015.
The 2015 Grand Final.
The common denominator, the Cowboys were involved.
Yes. No, but seriously, when he scored in the corner, Addo-Carr, then kicked from nearly the sideline and hit the post, I thought, this is 2015 Grand Final all over again. Except on the other side of the field.
Honestly, my heart was racing.
I bet it was.
It was absolutely racing. Watching that result, the try from the Fox, going to golden point, and then once again Burton and to Addo-Carr, the chip kick, which put the Fox in the clear. Then he puts in a second kick. The Cowboys knock it on. Preston dives on the ball. The tackle count gets restarted. There's 10 seconds left on the clock. And then Burton on tackle 1. If he misses, it's 7 tackles for the Cowboys. But he nails it. And in front of it, even though it was a crowd less than 10,000, he sent that crowd nuts.
Yeah, he certainly did.
Josh Reynolds back as well. He saw out Golden Point as well. So that was just the amount of ecstasy as a Canterbury fan. That roller coaster from... it was just one of the best performances I think I've seen from the Dogs for a while. Like, never say die.
Exactly.
It's just typical Bulldogs performance. A proper Dogs performance. You dig in and you ground out the result.
Yes, we certainly did. Now you're getting carried away. We need to get focused back onto this match.
Yes, Good Friday. The Dogs currently, 2020 excluded, are on a consecutive losing run, have not won on Good Friday since 2017. Like you could do any better on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
Yes,
But to rate that, everyone's been saying about Latrell Mitchell needs standing up, but these two clashes, every Good Friday...
Expect fireworks.
Yes, exactly right. Ever since... Pretty much since I made the grand final in 2014, these two sides onwards.
This has been an institution of the Easter long weekend. Bulldogs against the Rabbitohs is a Good Friday institution.
Yes. And even like on a Friday afternoon crowd, very nice indeed.
You should at least be expecting somewhere between 40 and 50,000 rock up for that game.
Well, you got the Easter show right next door, so go to the Easter show for the day, then go to the footy in the afternoon. Why not?
It works out.
And then go back to the Easter show for the night, if you want to.
It works out. Totola coming back in, I think for South's middle rotation, that is a big boost given the concerns the Dogs pack has been put through. Again, this is another real hard game to call.
Like all season, really.
Yes, exactly.
Literally all season so far.
One of the closest seasons we've had in the last 40 years.
Yeah. I'm going to go to lean the Dogs' favour. It's such a tough call. I was initially going to say South Sydney. But, you know what? Throw a spanner in the works. The Bulldogs are playing exceptional this season.
I think you're right. The Dogs have been playing a lot better than what they have been over the last 3 years. I mean, at this point, we'd probably be lucky to have 1 win and 4 losses to our name, if you're looking at the first 5. At this point, we're 3-2, our best start in 7 years. Does it come crashing back down to earth? Well,
I reckon
there's a possibility that it could.
I reckon if the Dogs are behind or very close to the game, inject Josh Reynolds, and that will add another kicking option to the Dogs. Then you have Burton, Flanagan, Marnie, and Reynolds out in the field.
And Avarilla, remember, he was a playmaker too. So
Avarilla, so there's 5 options there when Josh Reynolds gets on the field to have on tackle 5 kick, which can really throw the opposition out because you can pass to anyone.
I'd actually be willing to try and put all the pressure on Tane Milne. This will be his first game back since he got sent off in the prelim final against the Panthers. I want to test his match fitness, and I want to test him in the air, especially with someone like Jacob Carraz marking him opposite. I think if the Dogs go right, there is a chance.
And Burton's towering bombs.
The Burton bomb.
The Burton bomb, yes, that will definitely help.
That is such a marketable name to have, the Burton bomb.
But it is true.
I didn't think we'd knock off the Cowboys, but you know what? I think there is a lot more confidence in South Sydney that we can knock them off, given the way they have been playing against much more quality opposition.
And without the king of Accor Stadium, Alex Johnston.
I'm going to stick loyal to the blue and whites. I'm backing the Bulldogs 1-6 here.
Yep. Bulldogs 1-6.
Now shifting into the second of the Good Friday program, something a little bit different. We'll have the North Queensland Cowboys up against the Dolphins for the first time on Good Friday. So with no Anthony Milford in the halves after going down with a hamstring injury, Cody Nikorima will be back in the lineup at 5'8". Isaiah Katoa shifting two halfback. Edric Lee will be called in over the debutant Jack Bostock on the left wing. Felice Kafusi still at least 1 week away, whilst Kurt Donahue has also been recalled in place of Mason Teague.
As for the home side, Scott Drinkwater is back, which pushes Tom Chester, a really solid Tom Chester, back to interchange with Helam Lukey and Jordan McLean out with hamstrings. Griffin Knee moves into the starting side and Ruben Cotto returns as well. Riley Price retains his spot on the bench.
I mean, the Cowboys haven't looked convincing all year, but now the Dolphins are starting to hit a wall after going down to the St. George Illawarra Dragons 38-12. I mean, you saw it once Milford went down, the Dolphins were in trouble.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think this is something Billy Slater pointed out. It's the depth issue at the Dolphins.
Yes. I mean, there's going to be issues there, don't get me wrong, with a new club, with depth.
But, I mean, they lost Shaun O'Sullivan. He was the first string halfback. He's been ruled out for up to 4 months from when he did his pec. Anthony Milford was brought in as the second string halfback. He's now out for a month after doing his hamstring in the first quarter of the game. Now Isaiah Katoa and Cody Nikarima are practically the third string halves combination at the moment.
Yeah, look, they started, 3-0 to start the year?
3-0, yeah, but
and
now
it's kind of gone a bit of a slide, yeah. So they're 4-2?
They're 3-2 heading
3-2, sorry.
Friday. And look, that defensive display against the Dragons didn't help their case either, I think. And once they lacked direction, the edges just got picked off easily, I think.
Yeah.
And you saw it, and I'm thinking Wayne Bennett was looking for a better defender than Jack Bostock after Michaeli Rabuala just steamrolled him on 2 occasions.
How ironic was that? An old former Dragons junior.
Yeah.
Got
Illawarra
rolled.
Junior got his name at the Dolphins, made a start, and he just got run over by a huge Fijian freight train.
Yes. But yeah, the Dolphins were not on in that match, which coming into the weekend, I thought, coming into that game, I thought, oh no, we're in for another loss. But no, we somehow pulled it off. But like once Milford went down, it heavily went in our favour.
It just put everyone in the Dolphins under pressure, and Ben Hunt took the ultimate advantage out of it.
Typical.
One try assist, 124 running meters, 6 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and a goal line drop. He picked up another 3 points from me as my standout player, but Talatoa Monet plays his first game of the year, and it's apparently the Dragons' best performance all year.
You saying Sullivan's a bad player?
I'm not saying Sullivan's a bad player. I'm just saying Monet came in at a very opportune time, and St. George Illawarra flexed the muscle.
Jacob Little had a cracking game too. I think a full 80-minute game for him.
Didn't he come off the bench, or was he rotating with Moses Mbai initially?
I don't know. Initially he was rotating, but I think he started from kick-off and went right through.
So how would you rate that as a Dragons fan, Little starting instead of coming off the interchange?
I reckon it's a good thing. Gives him more confidence, gives him more game time.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case.
But also,
Tyrell Sloan, Jesus Christ. Last year he was getting hit pillar of the post. Now he's probably the talk at the gong at this point.
He's going very well this season. Can I say, how the hell did Zach Lomax get that ball down? I think it was Zach Lomax. They put the grubber kick through. It looked like it was going to go dead. Players all around, and then he somehow managed to get the ball bounced nicely, and he got it. And
the miraculous try.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that was...
I believe it was Zach Lomax. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but that was absolute... that is...
To be honest, that win surprised me.
I think it took everyone off guard, to be honest. I think given how well poor the Dragons have been going and how well the Dolphins played up until they lost.
I believe that's our 3rd win all season.
Yeah, Gold Coast. No, Gold Coast and the Dolphins. So you're 2 from 4.
At home, the bye.
Bye doesn't count.
That's still 2 points, though.
It doesn't count.
Damn
You
it.
got 2 wins. We got 3 wins, motherfucker. Don't think you can convince me otherwise.
Technically, it's 2 wins proper, but technically 3.
Read the ladder. Who's above you?
Yes, I know.
The Titans for 1 and the Dogs. Read it.
Not by much, though.
We're 3-2.
Yeah.
you haven't played an extra game yet.
I know. But we will, though. But anyway. Yeah, as for the Cowboys, though.
Well, I think the forward reinforcements and Scott Drinkwater coming back in as well. I mean, no disrespect to Tom Chester, but I think the Cowboys were lacking something that Drinkwater had.
But Chester played really solid for the games he played.
Well, he did, I would say.
Even in the preseason trials, he played very, very solid indeed. He's a future.
I think Ruben Cotter also, for the middle rotation, I think that helps out as well. Griffin Neem moves into the edge, as you said. So that frees up another running option, and it just gives the big boppers is on the bench a breather. I tell you what, it's pretty rough going for James Tarmer at the moment.
Going back up to his
They're talking retirement.
club, he made his debut, and then, yeah.
With Alice Frank's injury, they're talking it could be career-ending at this point, and
Look,
at his age.
To be quite honest with you, I think this year was going to be, his last contract was going to be up there with the Cowboys.
I mean, they're talking...
It was only a 1 year deal.
If he actually manages to pull through from this Liz Franks injury, they're talking he might be fit for the finals if the Cowboys are in a good enough position.
But he did sign a 1 year deal, did he not?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, I always thought this 1 year was going to be his last year, but yeah. But I'm going to say the Cowboys would win this one 7-12. The Dolphins, without Milford, as we saw against the Dragons, just collapsed.
I just generally think without any decent halves options, I think you got Anthony Milford, who's playing for his career in the NRL at this point, against Isaiah Katoa, an under 20 half who's been thrusted in, he's given the number 7 jumper, and he's expected to steer the side around the park. Forward pack still looks a little bit decent, but I think the Cowboys have just got too much class going into this one, and it could turn very ugly very quickly. Yeah, I think the Cowboys do win in this 7-12. I just think yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just too much class from the Cowboys, and I think they'll be looking to address a couple of things after that Golden Point loss.
Yep. All right, the first of our Saturday games, we have got the Penrith Panthers up against the Manly Sea Eagles. For the Manly side, Jason Saab returns to replace Christian Tuipulotu, who's out with a knee injury. Josh Schuster is back, so that pushes Cooper Johns to reserves, and also Ben Travojevic sees Carl with a hamstring,
6 weeks.
and then Carl Lawton joining the bench in place of him.
Well, as for the Panthers, there is no James Fisher-Harris. He's been ruled out with a knee injury. So Matt Eisenhuth will start in the front at low. Scott Sorensen, and I believe, will still be starting in the pack with no Liam Martin still out at the moment due to a hamstring complaint. Sony Luke is also back in the lineup, so that pushes Tyrone Peachy to the 18th man. Of course, the Panthers' biggest win of the season thus far are demolishing the Canberra Raiders 53 points to 12.
Goodbye, Canberra. You cannot win the grand final now.
Whilst Manly played out a 32-all draw with Newcastle.
What do you want to touch on first? Penrith.
Let's actually touch on the draw first.
Yes. When was the last time we saw a draw in NRL?
3 years ago. Round 4, 2020, Newcastle against Canberra.
Yes. And that was...
Oh, no, Newcastle against Penrith. That's right.
Yes. Yeah, that was a very, very even match.
Well, I honestly can't believe we saw the debut of a new rule.
What was that?
Apparently, if you lose your place in the defensive line and you see a back rower steaming through with the ball, you just don't tackle him. Let him score. The Miller rule.
Yes, the Miller rule.
Get rid of it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Goal line defence license revoked.
Yep. Can I say that for Newcastle? Dominic Young had an absolute cracking of a game on his return.
Oh, no joke. He absolutely...
4 tries. And his second try that he started at the other end of the field, running up, passing it in, and then they passed the ball in, then passed it back out to him to score. That was a very solid try setup.
The fact that Newcastle were up 28-16 at one point. Newcastle were in front.
Yes.
in a very high-scoring contest.
More than high scoring.
And then Manly
it
came
was
into it.
64 points in
And
total.
you saw Tom Trbojevic, honestly, probably played his best game since coming back.
Yeah, I said he was easing into it.
297 run meters, 2 try assists, 3 tackle breaks, 3 line break assists and an offload. And then on the other side, because in the event of a draw, I picked one standout player from both sides, and it was Dom Young.
Yeah.
He turned Newcastle back towards an unlikely win against an old rival. 4 tries in a single game, 227 run meters, 5 tackle breaks and 4 line breaks, given the fact he was dropped the week before for making errors.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. Against the Raiders, he made too many errors, got dropped, went back to the New South Wales Cup, had an absolute blind of a game, and
He got
Adam
recalled
O'Brien
unexpectedly because Heimel Hunt was ruled out.
yes. And Adam O'Brien says, oh, here you go.
And
See
he
what you can
didn't
do. And what
disappoint.
happened?
He
4
didn't
tries.
disappoint.
4 tries. That is
The
unbelievable.
last 2 he scored, which guaranteed him the hat trick and the match leveling try.
Yeah.
That was a superhuman effort. No wonder the Roosters wanted to sign him up because
Oh, I reckon.
how well did he play?
Very, very well indeed. I think he cut a lot of his errors out. Indeed. But yeah, 32-all draw. That was an absolute cracking game to watch. I'm going to say this now. You probably disagree. The best game so far this season.
But it was marred to an extent.
True.
I mean, first of all,
Oh, sorry. One of the best games. I'll say season. I'll say round.
Bradman
round.
Best.
Yes.
How could you definitively say that was a knock-on?
It wasn't.
I tipped Manly, and even I thought that wasn't a knock-on.
I tipped Manly too. And
But
yeah, that was no
dead
knock-on.
set. Where was the knock-on? Newcastle should have won the game then and there.
Yeah.
Or had the opportunity to win it. And instead, what do we get from the bunker? Oh, the moment you see him pop up on the screen, you puts his hand up, blows the whistle, and then he's just like, just want to check for the knock-on. I think everyone would have been thinking,
Oh, no.
what is going on here? That was an absolute blunder.
I think the referee might have been secretly going for Manly.
And then Hamole Olakawatu gives away a penalty while Manly are in possession of the ball. I mean, you're trying
How
to
do you
fight.
do that, though?
How
Like,
do you
seriously?
try- Well, apparently there was some, as Andrew Voss would like to say, there was some garbage on the ground.
Ah.
And he thought DCE was getting roughed up by the Newcastle defence. So he comes in. He was deemed to have started the fracas with Jack Johns, I believe. That saw Newcastle get the penalty off the ball. And
Yep.
and they were up 32-28 after the try was taken off them. Then Newcastle go down the other end and score.
And
Or
locked
just
it up.
absolutely pulled Manly's left side defensively out of shape all game.
Yep.
But to be fair, Tom Trbojevic and KO Weeks also caused a lot of damage around the middle of the ruck as well.
Yeah, they certainly did. Tomas Vrojvic getting back into what we are used to seeing him do. Like I said, he's been easing his way into it this season, trying to be a bit conservative, and he's slowly getting there as the season progresses on.
Panthers, meanwhile, look.
Well, put it this way, Panthers are up 13-6 at half time.
It was a competitive game, and then there was an explosion.
Yeah.
A
Hey,
6-try explosion.
and what you say about first half field goals was, well, that was blown out the window, wasn't it?
Yeah, dead set. It was blown way off the park. Not only did Penrith probably get the try of the year or more sets of hands than the Tigers can count finals appearances in 10 years. Yeah, we're making jokes about the Tigers again.
True. It's true, though.
But Sanea Taruva had a field day with he's on the end of season highlights now. For
Bloody
one of the
oath.
best tries.
Bloody hell. Put that kick through and somehow still managed to score.
And you must honestly be shitting yourself if you find Isaac Targo on the same side of the field as Stephen Crichton, because that happened.
It did.
That absolutely happened.
And what happened? Targo got 2 tries out of that.
And Stephen Crichton got a one for himself, grubbering back infield. Well, you never see centres play on the same side of the field on a set play.
No, but it worked out, didn't not?
It did work.
But that's typical
Okay.
Penrith fashion, though.
Nathan Cleary gets my 3 points.
No
first of
surprises
all.
there.
One try assist, 124 run meters, 2 tackle breaks, 1 line break assist, one offload, of course, the 1-point field goal, and a near perfect 8 from 9 goals converted. Following
Absolute
that up,
dominator.
Sanea Taruva, 2 tries, 114 run meters, 2 tackle breaks, and 5 tackles in defense.
Plus 1 try assist to himself.
They don't count try assists if it's to yourself.
I know.
And
I know.
yeah, so Canberra,
I think
really
that's the first.
in trouble.
What
at
I
the
said,
moment.
it's very rare that Canberra concede 50 at their home.
That was not a good result beyond any
And
stretch of the imagination.
They cannot win the grand final from now. They're gone. One
They
grand
can
final.
make the grand final, but even that at that point, they're not likely to make the grand final.
You know, I know you can make the grand final. Look at South. They made the grand final to concede 50 twice and nearly won it. But they can't win the grand
There
final
are
now,
bigger
Canberra.
issues now at Canberra than I think some people would like to admit. I mean, not going to really touch on what Jamin Salmon did post scoring his try that got Penrith to 50.
Did he say something back about weak gutted dog to Ricky Stewart?
And then, well, I mean, look, I think let's just the more we steer clear of that, because this shit's just getting personal.
Yeah.
Or there's lack of decorum out of the Panthers camp, even if Ivan Cleary is seen to be endorsing comments like that. Let's just steer clear.
Yeah,
clear
but
of that.
there's something really wrong at Canberra.
Yeah, I think they're in the middle of a rebuild, as it is. And I was hearing some of this on NRL 360 last night. I mean, they tried to lure... Remember, if there was talk David Fafita might end up at the nation's capital, but
That was never going to happen.
realistically speaking, where would you rather play your rugby league? In Canberra or on the Gold Coast?
Gold Coast, because it's warmer, sunnier, great vibes.
See what I mean? They have a problem because of geographics, recruiting players to come and play in Canberra.
Well, Tedesco backflipped on them all those years ago before joining the Roosters.
Yes, how many? You look at the Raiders recruitment drive in the recent, say,
Plus all the drama with Jack White and putting himself
years.
on the market
Look at
as
the
well.
Raiders as big name recruits over the last 6 years. Who have they lured? Aiden Caesar. He only played 3 years for them and then left.
George Williams.
And then that's the thing. They supplemented and compensated by not being able to lure big name NRL players by taking the best out of Super League. So you're talking, I mean, they signed Josh Hodgson in 2015. They signed Elliot Whitehead probably around about the same time.
And they played very
Then
solid for him.
2019, they signed John Bateman and and Ryan Sutton up, followed by George Williams a year later, and then Harry Rushton also came out. But then isolation from close family and friends. George Williams returned home to Warrington midway through the year. John Bateman followed up not long after, ending up signing that rich deal at the Wigan Warriors. Hodgson's left for Parramatta at the end of last year. Rushton joined Huddersfield mid last year as well.
And now there's talks about Jack White and potential leaving with his...
No, I don't think he is.
Well, get this right. So Jack White's testing the market, but Canberra are still the favourites to get him.
I would be surprised. He's got an option, and I heard this too. He's got a window until round 10
Which
to
is 4
activate
weeks
his
away.
contract extension. So
5 weeks away, sorry.
he's honestly waiting to see what offers come up. We don't know whether it's about the lifestyle or he wants to win a premiership, because there are
We
probably
came
only
so close in 2019.
there are only 3 clubs realistically at the moment who could probably, one, have the money to accommodate him,
Dolphins.
and 2, are realistic of winning a premiership. So
Dolphins.
no.
But they'll have the money, though.
Penrith, the Broncos, Roosters, Melbourne.
Well, Penrith will keep Cleary Luai there for ages. Melbourne will keep Munster and Hughes there for a long time.
He doesn't even have to play 5'8". He just has to fit somewhere in the
Yeah,
side.
but they're still, they still lock up their players long term. And who was the other one you said? Brisbane.
And the Broncos, yes.
Yeah. Maybe a possibility of Brisbane. But Dolphins will have the money.
Dolphins have the money,
Dolphins
but they
have
are
the money.
not in a position to win a premiership.
Not yet. The other 3 have. But do they have the money and the room?
And I think there was South were also thrown up as well.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be happening. Because you can play centre as well, don't forget. And fullback.
But we got to keep in mind, he spent 14 years at the Raiders, and he made an impassioned speech when he won the Dally M, for the best player of the year, that he wanted to win a premiership at Canberra, and following the example set by players like Laurie Daly, and play out his career completely at Canberra.
I think he will. He'll stay at Canberra, and he came also close to winning the premiership in 2019. 19?
19.
19, yeah.
Manly have got trouble, I think. Even though Jason Saab is back, I think he's automatically a target for Nathan Cleary to have a crack at. I think he'll be looking at trying to get aerial contact, test the fitness. If he makes a couple of errors early, I think Cleary will just go at him all night.
100% agree.
And even with Josh Schuster back as well, I think, even without Fisher Harris, I think Saturday night, Penrith home ground advantage, healthy crowd out there, and off a good buzz after beating Canberra by a ton.
Yep.
Panthers win this 7-12.
Yep. Penrith win this one 7-12. That'll just be too good for Manly. Manly will look at me Manly have confidence after their loss again. Their draw against Newcastle, but they'll just be too. Penrith will just be way too strong for the Seagulls. Although we could have seen a surprise, but I don't think we will.
Now the second game on Saturday night has the Brisbane Broncos up against the Canberra Raiders. Speaking of them, Jared Croker, surprise, surprise,
hey!
He's back at the side. James Schiller makes way back to the reserves for Croker's return, which of course he is amongst the only change in the back line, whilst in the forwards, Corey Hawawira, Naira and Corey Horsburgh trade places. Horsburgh starting at lock forward and Hawawira Naira going to the bench, with Brad Schneider coming in for Matt Frawley and his broken hand.
I was going to say Jack White, but he's suspended. I think. Jack White, yeah. As for Brisbane, again, same 17, they have gone 5-0 to start the season and are sitting atop of the ladder. The only thing is really Kobe Haddington is on the reserves list after 2 weeks back on bicep injury via Queensland Cup, and Pereira's 18th man, but otherwise same 17.
Now the Broncos, they just steamrolled the West Tigers 46-12.
There's really not much to talk about that game. It was one-way traffic from the get-go.
Look, the Broncos are playing an outstanding brand of football. If you remember back in 2 months ago, I had major reservations of how Reece Walsh was going to play back in the Brisbane Fold. Well, it turns out he brings speed and he brings energy, and he brings another playmaking option. He had his hand in 3 of the tries scored. Of course, a couple for Katoni Staggs as well. As I think the try to Jordan Ricky as well. Was that Adam Reynolds?
Jordan Ricky got 2 tries last week. Oh, but yeah, did Reece Walsh have a hand in it?
Oh, no, that's right. Herbie Farnworth was the other one as well.
Yeah.
But the Broncos just absolutely tore through the middle of really a feckless, rudderless, sinking ship of a football club that doesn't even know who they are.
Well, get this. We're talking about it's off there. This is the second year in a row that Tigers gone 0-5 to start the season.
Not since the Newtown
They're first
Jets
in the NRL era to do that.
1968-69 has a rugby league side in Australia at the top level started 2 years 0-5.
Can we just give the Tigers a wooden spoon now?
They are dead set. They are odds-on favourites already. I mean,
no doubt about it. They're probably like $1 million to win the grand final.
I think even $1 million wouldn't be enough.
Okay, $1 billion anyway.
But look, how many errors did they concede? Like length of the field tries. Like Bateman forces a pass, Selwyn Cobbo dives on it. They do so well to put or one of the Broncos forward down, only for Payne Haas to jump out of dummy half.
He had
God.
a cracker of a game.
Yes, Payne Haas had an absolute...
He was a
blinder.
pain in the Haas.
I was tossing up between Walsh and Haas because I gave them the split. I split the 5 points between the two of them. I've just decided to go with Haas this time round because he is honestly leading a spot in the Blues forward pack at this point. 1 try, 144 run meters, 6 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and 4 offloads. A complete and utter domination of the middle of the field.
Yeah, he certainly was. And he was a pain in the Haas for the Tigers. There's no other words to say it. He was a pain in the Haas.
What did the Tigers actually produce? I mean, yeah, sure, Wade Acom had that one good crossfield kick that got Isaiah Papali'i over a line. Other than that, Jake Simpkin dives from dummy half. The only 2 lapses in the Broncos' defense all night.
Yeah.
But that's all you can really positively say about them.
Yeah. Other than that, they need... I don't know what else to say
No
about
one's
him.
running with Coruscant. John Bateman's trying, but he's forcing passes he probably should. That led to 12-point turnarounds.
Yeah.
Between the Tigers scoring and then the Broncos returning serve on top of that. And my God, what are they going to do about their spine?
Well, we'll touch on them in a minute, but yeah.
And the Raiders have got major problems at the moment as well, I think. Personnel issues. I mean, they're missing their marquee 5'8", and the Broncos are in a real good spot at the moment. I think the Broncos come home with this 13-20.
Yeah, again, read my mind. Broncos in a way better position than the Raiders. It will be good to see Jared Croker back in NRL for the first time since round 9 last year. But, so, I don't know if he'll be taking over the goal kicking duties. I believe he will. Jared Croker, because he...
No, I still reckon Fogarty's got the mileage up for kicks. So I still think it'd be Fogarty.
We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Brisbane this one, 13-20, will be the biggest blowout score all weekend.
Now the first,
Second,
the first of the Easter Sunday games has the Gold Coast Titans coming off the bye up against the St George Illawarra Dragons.
The Dragons have got the same 17 with Jaden Sewer failing to finish last week. He'll be monitored this week. Ravalawa and DeBellin were charged from the match review committee but accepted fines and are all sweet to play.
As for Justin Holbrook, he has had to deal with the unfortunate fallout of losing both AJ Brimson and Kieran Foran. So Jaden Campbell now lines up at fullback with Toby Sexton coming in at 5'8". And the fresh man on the bench is Cleese Haas.
I'm guessing related to Payne Haas.
Payne Haas's younger brother.
Yeah. And also on the reserves, we've got Leeds Rhinos runner-up in the grand final, Cruz Leeming.
Yes, the former Leeds captain making the move out to the Gold Coast after being let go by Headingley with a year to run in his contract.
Contracts mean nothing nowadays, buddy.
Yeah, we know, and that's the sad thing. If contracts meant something, he would have probably played out like Gordon Tallis. Gordon Tallis in 1997 signed to join... I think it was 96-97. Gordon Tallis signed to play with the Brisbane Broncos in Super League. He sat out the whole of 1997 for St George, or 96 for St George. Just didn't play at all. Honoured his last contract with the Dragons before joining the Broncos, and then, of course, winning 3 premierships under Wayne Bennett.
Yep.
No one does that anymore.
I was going to say, unfortunately, I don't do that anymore because I either want to get out of a toxic environment.
That they probably contributed towards.
Tigers. Yes, I just called the toxic Tigers a toxic environment. So bag me all you want, but it's probably true. But also they'll chase bigger dollars elsewhere. It comes down to dollars nowadays. Loyalty is out of the window nowadays. There's very few that stay loyal. It's more about the money.
I mean, that's sort of the sad truth. But the fans don't follow the players. The fans follow the clubs.
Yes.
And if you sign a player, you would expect him to stay loyal to the club. And when he doesn't, or when she doesn't, because that's probably going to happen probably within the next 30 years.
Well, yeah, now they can NRLW players can sign multi-year deals.
It's going to happen there too. But the sad reality is if they don't 100% the club, that's an insult against the fans.
Yep. It could be a top class player for the club, and then
The Titans, I think. Oh look, this is just going to be a 1 week. A
who
streak.
did they play last week? I don't mind.
They had the bye in round
That's
5
right.
and came off a poor loss against, a very devastating loss against the Cowboys, where Foreign and
then a
Brinson
week
both
before
went
that, they
down.
beat Melbourne.
They beat Melbourne.
Yeah.
Look, the Titans, even if they have this readjustment in the spine, I mean, they can just slide Campbell into fullback so easily, and then Toby Sexton gets his first crack since God knows how long.
About late last year.
Yeah.
It's about around 18, 19? Or a bit earlier.
Yeah,
than
before
that.
Tanner Boyd took over as the halfback for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
The Dragons, I think. Too good against the Dolphins, and I think
Surprisingly.
they'll be too good against the Titans at home on Easter Sunday. And I think if you look towards the edges, I think if Ben Hunt can get some good quality ball out that way early, the Dragons are going to be laughing.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for Boyd because he's going to have to mark up against Ben Murdoch-Masila. And the more fitness Murdoch-Masila gets, the more devastating a wrecking ball he will become.
Yeah, we know what he used to be like, and he's only going to improve. Dragons 7-12.
Yeah, Dragons to get back-to-back wins over the Titans for this year.
And the other 2 times they play him.
Now, this is going to be an absolute barnstorming affair. The
I'm
Newcastle Knights up against the New Zealand Warriors to wrap up the Easter Sunday agenda.
I'm going to say it right now, not quite sold out, but probably about a 23,000 crowd. Easter Sunday at McDonald Jones Stadium. Sunday, well, it's not quite Sunday afternoon.
Night.
Sunday night, Mac Jones Stadium on Easter Sunday is going to be an absolute cracking crowd.
And there's been a boost for the high-flying second-place Warriors with both Tamare Martin and Tohu Harris both named in the lineup. Of course, Ronald Volkman dropping out of the side with Jazz Tabunga going back to the bench. No Maratani Okore suspended for an innocuous hip drop tackle, you'd have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So Bailey Sirinen gets a rare start in the second row for the high-flying Warriors.
As for the home side, Tyson Gamble is out with his head knock, so that's 11 days gone. So Phoenix Crossland comes in a partner, Jackson Hastings, with Kurt Mann returning on the bench after his concussion missing last week, and Matt Croker, despite picking up a rib injury, is all good to play.
My God, the Warriors game against the Sharks. If you told me the Warriors will beat the Sharks at Shark Park, 32 points to 30, I would have laughed in your face so hard. I don't know. I got nothing else.
But I know what you're saying, though. That had to be the upset of the round, if not upset of the season so far.
The Sharks got on a roll so early. They were basically going length of the field and scoring. That's how well the Sharks were going.
One day up 12-0 in like 5 minutes or something like that.
Exactly. They were scoring with the clock. They were up 20-0 inside the first half an hour.
But then,
the errors started to kick in.
And then the Warriors capitalised. Shaun Johnson, I have to say, perfect off the boot.
Not just perfect off the boot, an absolute first-class display. And
turned back the clock much.
I would have to say, I didn't...
Literally turned back the clock.
I think many people would have had half an opinion about Shaun Johnson about being a spent force. But as Cooper Cronk said last night, Johnson put the game management tenfold up. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, the turning point was the bomb kick he put up. He chased through on it, forced a mistake from Ronaldo Mulatalo, who had a horror night under the high ball.
He certainly did, which is not like him at all.
But he absolutely came up clutch for the Warriors. 1 try, 2 try assists, 72 run meters, 2 tackle breaks, 1 offload, 1 goal line dropout, and 6 from 6 goals converted.
Yeah. Including a penalty goal that ultimately sealed the match from 36 metres out.
That was and in the pouring rain, no less. This was a Warriors side we have not seen.
Not only was this an upset for the Warriors, they are sitting second on the ladder.
They're behind the Broncos.
When
if
was
you
the
told
last
me
time-
5 rounds in, you would have Broncos Warriors, the best 2 teams in the NRL, after 5 rounds, you might as well be Donald Trump. You might as well be like him. And with a small loan of $1 million, I predicted this result would happen. I love my rugby league.
Pretty much. But when was the last time we saw the Warriors that high on the ladder?
Very rare indeed. But
Well, I
it's
can't
a
recall
question of whether they can sustain it. They're 4-1 at the moment, but that's only up to round 6 at the moment. Can
Yes.
they go 5-1?
Who knows? This is a juicy
This is a
matchup.
rematch of round 1, to be honest, because I think everyone was expecting Newcastle to come out and win this game. And the Warriors...
That's right, it is too, isn't it?
And the Warriors showed them up bigly from the cake tin.
Yes. I'm edgy. One might mention the Warriors because I'd really like to see the Warriors do so well. But then again, Newcastle being at home, a full-on crowd on the Easter Sunday is just going to be magnificent. A home crowd event, like the crowd will be fully supporting Newcastle, no doubt about that. But then again, one come off a narrow win, one come off a draw. Both teams will be full of confidence.
It will be... Both these sides will either be exhausted or playing off very high emotion, and this can count against either side here. Newcastle playing 90 minutes. That hurts. The Warriors getting the biggest comeback in their recent history. One of their biggest comebacks.
Well, they could have gone to golden point. Nico Hines got that penalty goal from the sideline. That could have gone to golden point.
Yeah, it could have. It absolutely could have. But I got to lean with the Warriors here. 1-6, but I think if they're knocking off sides like the Sharks and the Cowboys, I got to take notice here. I think the Knights, for all their hard efforts, and they will put in an effort, believe me.
Well, they had a solid game against Canberra and won. They somewhat kept in touch with the Dolphins back in round 3. Even though they lost, it was still a solid game for a losing side. You know what? I'm calling the draw.
You're calling it...
I cannot decide who the hell is going to win this one. I'm calling it a draw.
So you're going a draw, while I'm going to lean with the Warriors.
Yep. Hey, we don't call draws very often, but I would like to see the Warriors win this one, but then again, Newcastle can also win it as well. So I'm calling it a dead set draw.
And finally, on Easter Monday, the winless West Tigers up against the Parramatta Eels.
For the home away, well, I was going to say the home style for a second, but they are actually away, sorry. Shaun returns after suffering his broken jaw in pre-season. So Jermaine Hopgood reverts to the bench with Hayes Dunster going on to the win for Bailey Thompson, who's suspended, and Sean Russell replaces Walker Blake in the centres. Junior Paulo is still 1 week away.
As for the Tigers, well, Tim Sheen's called it. The Adam Dewey fullback experiment is over. He's now back at 5'8" alongside Luke Brooks. Charlie Staines is the new fullback option. And Joe Offengawi also joins the bench, pushing Justin Matamua and Brandon Wakeham both back to the reserves. Brent Naden also back from illness in the centres, with Asu Kapoa going to the wing.
Well, as we know, Tigers have played horrendous all season long.
They recruited well.
Although, I have to say, they did come back against the Dogs, and which they shouldn't have. They've been... What are you going to say? Unless they're not been getting held to scoreless, they are getting into double figures. I don't think they've been under double figures all season long. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, they haven't, but they haven't looked convincing one bit. They lost.
No.
Many
I went
reckon
a
they
5.
should have beaten the Gold Coast and Newcastle at Leichhardt when they had the chance.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. Going to Belmore was always going to be a tough assignment, especially with all the emotion around the Bulldogs, as that is their spiritual home ground. And then, of course, roadblock Melbourne and Brisbane.
Yep.
The fact that the Tigers are as bad as they are with the good players they recruited. Riddle me this. How do you manage to play worse than you did last year with a better roster overall?
Honestly, do not ask me. They signed Coruscant, Papali'i, Bateman. Oh, come on. Staines, yes. How can you not play well with those 4 big players? Again, like I said last time out, they are lacking their push. Coruscant is running the ball, but he hasn't got the support from the halves like he did at Penrith.
Luke Brooks is not a halfback.
Get him out of the side. How many bloody times do we need to say it? And apparently Justin Pascoe's coming underneath bloody some
on
scrutiny.
his phone in the shed during the half-time talk.
Plus wearing tracksuit pants to the game.
Well, apparently he tried to explain it away, or his press agent, Buzz Rothfield, tried to explain it away, by basically saying when he's not at home games for the Tigers, because, the CEO has to entertain the corporates. It's at Accor, Combank, Campbelltown, Leichhardt,
They're the home
wherever you
games
want to
then.
insert a stadium where the West Tigers are playing.
Pretty much, yeah.
He'll be entertaining the corporates, but apparently on away trips, he actually gets involved on the game day experience. But he probably shouldn't have been in the shed on his phone when Tim Sheens is trying to,
Again,
keep his side in the game when probably everything was gone.
In a way, I can see it that the Tigers' dismal that they're in, it's kind of like, it's not the coaching fault. Is it the board?
It's the front office. Yes, it is.
Like the Dragons.
It's the CEO who said, we're not going to we're going to let Ivan Cleary go at the first sign. We're going to keep Luke Brooks on a major money deal. At the same time,
Luke Brooks, $1.1 million. I think he's the 3rd or 4th highest payer, maybe 5th highest payer this season.
And he's the most expensive player on the Tigers' books. He oversaw Luke Brooks getting re-signed after he claimed the Dally M Halfback of the Year award.
Yeah.
The only time he actually had at least a positive win record as a half.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he has not won a game since round 9 last year that he's played in.
The only 4 wins the Tigers got. 3 of those came with Jackson Hastings playing halfback. Like either kicking the winning field goal or the game management.
Rabbits.
Easter Monday, round 7 last year. And then, of course, Canterbury, just before Origin kicked off, about maybe round 11 or 12. And then, of course, in round 20, when they beat the Broncos somehow.
And they should have won against the Cowboys.
Yeah, well, the Cowboys is a different story in and of itself. They tried him at 5'8". He probably looked a little bit better at 5'8", but
yeah,
the Tigers are in a hole because even if they do let Brooks go, there is no marquee half on the market worth their salt that would go within 10,000 miles of Concord.
Well, I was going to say Jack Whiten, but he won't go there.
He knows there's no premiership at the Tigers. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
They're flat out desperate to win a game, let alone thinking about top 8 aspirations. George Williams, his name's been linked with the club. He's flat out said while he's not ruling out a return.
Thriving at Warrington, for crying out loud.
He's at least 2 years away from maybe entertaining a return to the NRL. By that time, Warrington might actually have a championship next to their name.
Yeah, it could be this year too.
And then Mitchell Pearce, willing to throw $1.5 million over 2 years.
And he said he's not interested.
He turned Benji away. He absolutely turned Benji away.
This game, though, is one-way traffic.
Last year, the Tigers were able to pull off an upset. Beating the Eels at Combank on Easter Monday. There is
12
no
months
way.
later.
There is no way they can do it again. There is absolutely no path I see that they can beat the Eels for a second time on Easter Monday the same way they did it last year.
No
there
way there
just isn't.
Eels 21 plus.
Yes, Parramatta 21 plus. I think something will finally click for the Eels. And when it does, they're going to get 2 or 3 games on a roll and climb away from the bottom 4.
Eels 21 plus, as I said. And I'm going to say King Gutho to score a double.
That's another bold prediction right there. And on that note, that's everything to do with the NRL for this week. But don't go anywhere, because up next, it's your Easter program for round 8 of the Betfred Super League.
Rivals
the
round.
Second annual Rivals round due to kick off. And oh boy, have we got some contests. We'll be right back after we take a short break.